We are continuing our study on the Gospel of Matthew. In this section, we are going to be looking at Matthew chapter 4 and verse 1. I will be reading from the New English Bible. Jesus was then led away by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. Now, this is not quite accurate, so do not hold me accountable as if I said exactly this. But the baptism of Jesus was a focus on the divine enablement for ministry. Now we come into the human enablement for ministry. I would not push what I'm saying here too far, but I think it can help us understand what we must go through. It can be too easy to say, well, when God comes upon me, then I will be ready to do what he wants me to do. Ministry is not just about what I do, but about what unfolds within me. I'm in the process of developing a theory about the church. It is coming clearer in my mind, but still needs to be further developed. It is what I call cocooning. It is the idea that there are people in the church who see salvation as something from which they are saved from, and not as something they are saved for. People who see salvation as something from which they are saved from will do things in the church. In fact, they might be quite proficient in what they do. To all the world, they can look like strong, effective workers for his kingdom. The problem is that they only do things they are comfortable with. They do things which they would do even if they were not in the church. You see, the cocooners are people for whom ministry does not challenge their attitudes, their mindsets, and their habits. The people who see salvation as being saved for engage in activities that they would never do if they were not called of God. It is the insecure person who is now able to be an upfront leader in the church. It is the infertile mother who works in the church's nursery. It is the introvert who is now a church greeter. In these cases, we are saying ministry calls them out of their comfort zone. Ministry forces them to deal with their pain and hurt. Ministry forces them to grow up and take charge of who they are. The people who are the cocooners, who see salvation as being saved from, remain stuck in their insecurity, their hurts and pains, and locked in the past. Christian ministry is not just about what we do for God. It is the process of where we are really changed and transformed as people by doing the work of the church. The book of Hebrews says, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet he did not sin." Hebrews 4:15 in the New International Version. In other words, as we read Jesus going through the temptations in the wilderness, we need to remember that these are real and accurate. You see, like us, Jesus needed not only the empowerment of the Spirit, but also needed to come to terms with his humanity. The power of his ministry was the Spirit of God working in and through him. And the power of his ministry was the power of his humanity, overcoming the world. God can take and use each of us, but we have to allow him to transform us. We need him to begin the long and arduous task of remaking us in his image. Are we ready to go through our own wilderness experience?